here's a little tune that can only mean one thing. Odds are pretty good someone's about to get killed. Since 1990, Dick Wolf has been bumping off the citizens of New York, and a few out-of-towners too, in the longest-running crime drama in the history of television. Law & Order, from those early days of Detective Mike Logan and D.A. Ben Stone. The revolving door has been spinning a legion of cops and lawyers, with some of the greatest character actors in America taking on the roles.
So that's what a one-iron is for.
But talk about putting actors to work. Dick Wolf didn't stop with just one Law & Order. He built the show into one of the most successful brands in the history of television, with Law & Order SVU and Law & Order Criminal Intent. Those shows have been on the air for 8 and 6 seasons, respectively. That's almost unfathomable in the cutthroat world of television. And through all the mayhem he's brought to the streets of New York.
Get that stuff right there! Stop!
This television visionary, Dick Wolf, has handed NBC one of its biggest franchises ever. If you add all 3 shows together, it's 31 seasons worth of reruns, divvied out between the cable networks, in shows that continue to be some of the highest rated anywhere on the TV dial.
Hey, kid, this is not show business. This is police business.
Welcome back to The Big Idea. Okay, if you talk about television, over the last couple of decades, there is one man you got to start with. His name is Dick Wolf, and he's been behind a little thing called Law & Order. First one started 17 seasons ago. It's a $1 billion a year franchise. That's right, $1 billion a year franchise that pumps $150 million a year into the New York economy. I'm, of course, talking to the man, creator, owner, Dick Wolf. How are you, man?
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
So a little bit of a different time in TV when you start out peddling this thing 17 years ago.
Actually, 19 years ago.
19, by the time I got in the air.
Yeah.
And ABC turns it down?
CBS, everybody turned it down. It was actually the only, actually, ABC didn't, but everybody else did. Fox, CBS made the pilot and then turned it down.
So NBC picks it up. It was Tartikoff at the time?
Brandon Tartikoff picked it up over basically everybody at NBC's objections. Why are you picking up this busted pilot from a year ago? But he liked the show. And
what did he see in it? He was a visionary guy overall.
Yeah, what he saw in it was an endlessly repeatable formula the same way I did, because when he said, what's the Bible for the show? I said the front page of the New York Post. You're not going to, no writer's going to do better than headless body found in topless bar.
Greatest headline of all time.
So
you got to be a Post fan to understand that line, by the way.
But it was a formula that Brandon understood.
You've done a lot of revolutionary things. You were the first guy that, from where I sit, which has become now very vogue, to put feature and theatrical actors.
Did he tell his contributors about the afternoons he spent with Maria Berrigan?
It's an indiscretion, not a crime.
Maria's 17. She's an adult. She consented.
We're not charging him with statutory rape, Mr. Powell. We're charging him with rape in the first degree.
I didn't force her. I didn't have to.
Over the long course of television, if you look back, all the major television stars who came from movies were character actors, whether it was Telly Savalas or the ones that went the opposite direction became stars, like Clint Eastwood
or Robert Redford. Right.
But when they came from the big screen, it's almost invariable. Peter Falk, Angela Lansbury, they were all character actors.
Fascinating. Never thought about that. What's the, brand is overused, franchise is overused, but there is a Law & Order brand.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Beyond the rip from the headlines, what are the components? Because there are executional components and there are essence components. What is
I'd say that it's the writing stupid. It's always the writing.
Yeah.
This is quite clear cut.
She was a beautiful girl living hand to mouth. I offered to do her a favor.
A favor is when you help someone without asking for anything in return. You offered a tenant free rent in exchange for sex?
In America, it's called quid pro quo.
On the NYPD, it's called solicitation.
Other thing that is a phenomenon about this, and I'm trying to figure out why, I can't think of any drama in the history of television that translates to syndication like this does. You basically right now are 2 networks. TNT, US TNT USA, those two.
TNT
right?
USA, Bravo.
That, I mean, you carry what? Is there almost because it is very formulaic, not in a negative sense, the word, in a positive sense.
Maybe you weren't the first person to find Marjorie's body. Maybe you were the last person to see her alive.
How can you even think that?
You took the DVD. Why?
There was no DVD. It never existed.
Really, that's too bad for you because Diego kept a copy.
Is that what makes it work? Like almost like the way children can watch something over and over again because it is very structured. Is this kind of the adult version of that?
It's not far off. Yeah. It's comfort food. I mean, it's one of those things that I think there's another dirty little secret that the people who watch it on the network, a lot of them never see the last 5 or 6 minutes on network because they fall asleep at 10:54.
You're not saying you have an older demo, are you?
Oh, well, we do have an older demo.
What's, as a guy who's long before Law and Order involved a lot of other very, very successful shows, beyond the obvious things that the layman sees changing in the TV landscape, as a guy inside the business, what's the math that's different now?
There is no business model. I mean, this is the business as the consumer knows it. There's going to be no visible change in the next 5 to 8 years, except there'll be even more choices and even more ways of getting material. The consumer, if it comes out of their television, it's television. They don't care if it's the internet, cable, broadcast, and once there's one box and one pipe that brings everything in, it's going to be even more diversified, more choices, and fewer opportunities to launch anything.
Before we go, I ask everybody, this show is really about success now, and every CEO and every head of state I have on, I usually get the same answer. What's the key to success for anybody out there who's either starting in your business or any business? Dick Wolf, lessons learned?
The key to success, I guess the simplest is don't take no for an answer, because very few people say yes.
Dick Wolf, it's a pleasure, man. One big idea ahead, don't go anywhere.
Searching